Don't let your kids watch this if they believe in Santa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put that at the beginning of this. Like, not for kids who believe in Santa. All right, folks, welcome back to On This Hill. Here we are.
It's
back
almost
in the studio.
the night before Christmas, the week before Christmas.
We're getting
and all
close.
through the house.
Yeah. You got all your plans made?
Yeah, sure, I do. Yeah. Plans are made. How it's all going to happen, that's another story.
You mentioned the other day, I think it was in the sermon, right? We talk a lot, so I don't always remember what I've talked to you about in the sermon.
Right,
and
what we had said.
But that some of your Christmas Eves were in a bar and then going to the...
Yeah, growing up in the Catholic tradition, it was very, I don't know if the word is normal or common or what, but the neighborhoods of Chicago are these microcosms, of culture, but it's a Polish neighborhood, an Italian neighborhood, or whatever. And there was this neighborhood that we lived in, and there's a store, and there's a Catholic church, and there's a bar, and there's there's a barbershop. It was that kind of all within 3 blocks. Mm-hmm. But it's in the context of a much bigger city. But that neighborhood is your world, right? And so, we frequented that bar pretty regularly. When we were older, young, in our early 20s, and 95% of the people in that bar were of the Catholic tradition. And so even the owner who owned it. And so on Christmas Eve, the Catholic churches have a midnight mass.
Yeah, midnight mass.
Midnight mass, very popular. And so we would sit in that bar until 11:48, and then the guy would turn the lights off and kick everybody out. We'd all walk 3 blocks and go to mass. And I remember sitting in church on Christmas Eve, and just... and thinking, I mean, it was a kind of a cool experience. It was a very, full of candles, very decorated, a lot of imagery, which is typical. And I think even at that time, as outside of the kingdom that I was, I think God was still speaking.
Yeah.
Then I was kind of struck with the Christmas story, the impact, and all that it had on me. So the seeds were being planted.
Did anybody in your family serve in the church?
Oh yeah, my dad was an usher. Okay. My brother was an altar boy.
Was he?
Yeah.
You didn't follow in his footsteps.
I never made the cut. I just, for some reason, I just couldn't make the cut.
Did you try and get rejected, or did you have no interest?
That's another story.
Okay.
But there were requirements and grades and so forth.
I didn't realize there was grades.
Yeah. You couldn't just join.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a vetting process.
Well, I probably wouldn't have made the cut either.
It was a weird season of my life because I was a lot of lack of understanding and a lot of stuff going on in my life. But it's crazy through it all, thinking back on it when I mentioned it last week, that again, even then, sitting in those pews at 12:30 in the morning and listening to the gospel, the Christmas story is what they would read, and the priest would share a 20-minute homily, their version of the message, and it was, I don't know, it was sinking in. I just hadn't responded.
Yeah, I grew up in, that's the high church, is as high as you get. It's the, Timothy Keller likes to call it the Smells and Bells church.
Smells and Bells.
Incense,
candles.
Yeah, and beautiful. Like really, honestly, I wish the Protestant church
could pick some of that up.
Yeah, would pick up some of the beauty of it. I know it can be just rote tradition at times, but there's meaning behind those traditions.
It was reflective.
Yeah.
It was designed to reflect. It was designed to think and meditate and soak it in.
So I was on the other extreme. I was in the low church where they would cancel church if it was too close to Christmas. Like there wouldn't be a Sunday service. Like, Christmas is on Saturday, so there's no church on Sunday, or Christmas is on Monday, so there's no church on Sunday, kind of thing. And not that we weren't. I mean, we were gospel believers. We just didn't have that tradition, and church was home. Or Christmas was home with your family, not in a church service. So, but I really liked the way that we balanced that, and a lot of churches do that are Protestant churches that have that Sunday evening service. We don't start at midnight. But we have a Sunday, Christmas Eve, or sorry, not Sunday evening, but Christmas Eve service. Yeah,
and I think it's a beautiful thing. I think Christmas Eve. Listen, our lives move too fast. Our schedules are too quick, and I think we miss the wonder because we simply don't stop and wonder. Because I think Christmas in and of itself is when I use the word wonder, what I mean, it's a wonderful time of the year. That's how the song goes, right? Yeah. But it's a season of wonder. The idea of God becoming flesh, taking on the form of a baby, coming in disguise, that whole element should make us stop and wonder. And I love the Christmas story. I love Christmas Eve. And I don't think frankly, it should be trivialized. I mean,
Yeah.
we joke all the time about things that churches do of, live camels and,
Yeah.
what do they call that? The singing Christmas tree.
Yeah, living nativities, singing Christmas trees,
I
all of
just
it.
struggle.
Yeah.
And that's my personal, sorry, if you're listening to this and I just burst your bubble of the singing Christmas tree. But I just think it commercializes it somehow. It trivializes the deep truths that can stand on their own.
Yeah.
They don't need a bunch of dressing up. They're powerful truths. So I think slowing down, reading, thinking, singing, participating in some way.
I have in-laws who I absolutely love. I've known them forever, like well before my daughter Faith married her husband Joe. I was friends with the Dittmans. They're Jefferson Baptist people. They're great people. Greg and I, back when I was a garbage man, he was a recycle guy. So they're in-laws, but they're friends and family and everything. And one of their grandparents is Santa, and I mean, he is Santa.
Full on Santa.
Oh, he grows the white beard.
Yeah.
He's of Santa proportions. Like, he is Santa, and he's retiring this year. He's not going to do it anymore after this 1 year. But it's funny. I don't mind. I don't think they're going to get mad at me for outing them because Greg, my friend, he's of the Santa is bunk. It doesn't belong anywhere in Christmas. Anyone who,
Smells like beef and cheese.
yeah, anyone who celebrates with Santa, like, you're crazy. It's the same letters as Satan. I mean, I'm pushing that to an extreme, but that, that's how we like. Well, it's about the manger, not the tree, kind of. And that, which is I love it. But to have both of those exist at the same time, I think it's really interesting in our culture because even though people who are like, I'm not a Christian, but there's something magical about Christmas. They'll use that word all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a magical season.
Yeah.
But then they want to attribute it to, flying reindeer or Elf on the Shelf or those things. And I don't hate those things. Those things are fun.
Yeah.
But they're missing. They're so close. Like, yeah, it's actually supernatural. It's not just magical.
Yeah.
It's supernatural. And it's about a baby in a manger God made man.
We watched, my wife and I just the other night watched Elf. And if you've ever, we've watched Elf a lot. It's actually a very funny movie.
It is.
I think it's clever, but it's that kind of a thing. It's like the reason the sleigh doesn't fly is because people stop believing in magic.
Yeah.
And we just all need to, and it's funny because it's kind of a naive message. I mean, I don't know, that movie's 20 years old or something like that, 2003, I think. But it's a little bit of a naive message that if we just all believed in the magic and we all sang together, power is going to come and rejuvenate the sleigh or Santa's mission. And you just think about all the corollaries there between the gospel and that particular story. They've got so many of the basic elements that it is supernatural.
Yeah.
You do need to believe. You do need to participate. You do need to be in unity, but it's around. The one is around Santa and the other is around baby Jesus.
So what are some of the other stories that get close? Would be like A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol gets close.
Yeah.
It doesn't preach the gospel.
Yeah,
but it makes you reflect on the way that you live your life. It's almost more the law than the gospel, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're gonna die if you do, and you're gonna die a lonely, forgotten, bitter man, a ghost. What's his partner's
the
name?
Grinch and the
Grinch.
Ebenezer Scrooge and what was his partner's
can't
name?
remember. Marley?
Marley.
Something Marley?
Yeah. Well, he was the ghost, right?
Yeah, Marley.
Sorry,
yeah.
we're illiterate here. But movies, the White Christmas and those kinds of things. But isn't it interesting that the themes are so similar?
Yeah.
You can be out and grumpy and a Grinch and evil and mean, and there's a healing power in Christmas.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, there's this healing thing that you could just, if you could just wrap your mind around it, if you just enter into it.
Yeah, Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
There's magic. There's always these little magic elements involved
Yeah.
that people want to believe in, but they feel like, but I've aged out of actually. Sorry, maybe we should put a disclaimer here. Don't let your kids watch this if they believe in Santa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put that at the beginning of this. Like, not for kids who believe in Santa. But, we kind of do age out of it, but we miss it. There's a guy.
Logic and reason takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy, I'm forgetting his name right now. Maybe I'll probably remember it before this is over. But he says, and I won't quote him perfectly, but he says the modern world is haunted by a longing for the supernatural.
Yeah.
I'll think of his name. I can't think of it right now. But that phrase just really struck me. He said, we miss the God we don't believe in.
Right.
And this season is a real season of people missing the God they no longer believe in.
Yeah.
And they try to hang it on Santa and reindeer and Hallmark movies where there's some lightning strike of magic where two people come together and the mistletoe must have had a magic in it, or what's the Frosty the Snowman? There must have been some magic in that old top hat that day. That's that feeling. And
But it's true, though. I mean, you think about, okay, so the reality, what we believe to be true about the Christian story is basically that we were created by God, by a supernatural being who lives outside of our existence.
Yeah.
And we were created in his image. So we were created to have fellowship. So there's that gap, if you will, that we're human, but we know deep down inside, I'm made for more. We feel it all the time. I'm made for this magic to be operating in my life. I'm made to operate in this unseen world that goes beyond just the laws of physics, right? And I, like I said a minute ago, logic and reason. So logic and reason tells me only believe what you can see or measure or reproduce in a laboratory, but magic requires a bit of faith.
Yeah.
And the gospel requires a bit of faith but the faith isn't faith in suspended in midair. It's faith in what God says about himself.
So that was this Sunday we talked about is John chapter 7. And there's all these motives that were, in a way, you could almost break them down into stories.
Yeah.
So Jesus' brothers, it said, urged him, hey, if your story is true, go take that story to the big stage.
And be famous.
Yeah, go put the story on the big stage where people can see it.
Yeah.
But they had a story that they were believing in, and they were doubting his story. Like we don't, our story is you can't do the things you think you can do. You're not who you think you are. But if your story is you are who you think, then you should go do.
Yeah.
And then the Pharisees have another story that they're like, well, no, that this Messiah doesn't fit our story. We have a narrative that we believe in. And we're looking at our story and we're looking at you, and that's not the same thing.
And interesting, yeah.
And so the way the lens we tried to look at that through this week was trust and motive.
Yeah.
So which story are you willing to put your trust in? Because those movies all try to push you towards, if we all clap our hands, Tinkerbell will be able to fly again. Or if we all believe the sleigh will get off the ground, then Elf can, whatever it is. We have to trust some story. But I think a lot of us have grown out of a childish story. Like we heard a gospel story when we were young. And then we think I don't believe that anymore. I grew out of that, like you were saying. Like I have to put my trust in science and facts now. I can't believe a baby in a manger can change the world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that in both those stories in John 7 that we talked about, both the brothers who wanted their brother to be famous, and the question has to be asked, well, what's behind that? What's the motive? Why do you want your brother to be famous?
Yeah.
We said on Sunday, personally, we think it had to do with some kind of selfish ambition. The Pharisees they were motivated to shut Jesus down, to control and again, what's behind that motive? Well, again, self-serving motives of staying in control, staying in power, things like that. And Jesus, in the third part of that story, stands up and says something that's unquestionably going to be provocative and probably get him in trouble. But he says, if anyone's thirsty, let him come out. And if you believe in me, water's going to flow. So
I hope you were here this weekend because we talked about the Feast of Booths. It's a whole thing. But basically, he was saying that story points to me. I'm the water that you're dipping out of the well to bring up to the temple. I'm the water of life, which is what he's been saying in every chapter so far, is the story points to me. And that's the trust thing. Like, okay, who are we going to trust ourselves to? Like, when I thought of that piece, I didn't think about it till afterwards, after we preached. But the brothers, I thought it almost reminds me of parents who will sell their kid to Hollywood in a way.
Yeah.
Like you've got a talent.
We're going to make you famous.
Yeah, because that makes us rich. If you get famous, we get rich, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we inherently don't trust those kind of parents. Like there's a lot of even talk about that. There was, Netflix, I think documentaries about these dance kids and pageant kids and all that.
Yeah.
And the culture all went yuck. Like everyone went, that's gross. Like this feels gross.
It's such a fascinating question. If you could interview those people who said yuck, what is it about that causes you to, and part of it has to be, you're just seeing this naked human ambition, this raw, unfiltered human ambition.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but now again, not all ambition is bad, but when it's this self-serving ambition,
Yeah.
there's a sense of, I'm going to protect myself from that. I'm not jumping into that because I'm going to be taken advantage of, or it's not going to turn out well. And I mean, you look around at at a broken world, and you see where selfish ambition leads and what it creates. The one of the epistle writers, James, he talked about ambition, and he warned us. He says, well, it says in James, he says in James 3:15, he said, where you find jealousy and selfish ambition, they're not God's kind of wisdom. He says, where you find jealousy and selfish ambition, you're going to find disorder and evil of every kind. And so James has got this strong warning about this ambition that leaves everybody in the dust. I'm going to be in, again, how many lives and how many marriages, how many careers have been ruined because of just ambition that was just totally self-centered.
Yeah.
Where on the other hand, Jesus stands up, says something that's going to get him in trouble, that's going to put his life on the line. But what was his ambition? He said in that same passage of John, the Father has sent me to you. So I want to see my Father's glory. That's holy ambition, ambition. And I've been around people in my career that their lives have been governed by holy ambition. They just want to see his kingdom come on the earth.
Yeah.
So they take on obscure assignments, dangerous assignments, stuff that you could write a book about, but they're not after the applause of men. They're after the applause of heaven.
And we think about the idea to, because I realize as we preach through the Gospel of John, this is a little bit different than we've done before, that the Gospel is right there in every chapter. Like it's just right there in front of us in every chapter. So we're kind of preaching the Gospel over and over again, which is hopefully the job of a pastor. But also like finding that application. I was thinking about the application this week of trust. And the first application is I trust Jesus for my salvation.
Right.
That's the first application. And that's the one, the most takeaway one that I want us all to have. But where else does that, you mentioned at least one of the messages, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And if people have not read that before, there's just this book. It's not a Christian book, but it's a really good book.
It's actually written by a believer, but it's not an overtly Christian
book. It's not using scripture to make its point.
Right.
It's using really an allegory, story to make its point. And basically he says there are 5 dysfunctions of the team. I'll read them real quick. It's absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results.
Yeah.
But that very first one, he
draws it out in a diagram of a pyramid.
Yes.
And so the baseline, the foundation of the entire pyramid is trust.
It's trust. If you don't have trust, then you're not a team to begin with. You're not going to accomplish great things. And he's speaking to business. And you realize, like, I have employees, but if we don't have trust as a team, if I don't trust them, they don't trust me, or there's some key, manager in the team that is without trust, then we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
But it also applies to relationships, to marriages and story. And I thought about that, like how do you begin to trust one another in a marriage? What does that look like?
If you think about what makes a relationship a deep relationship, which is, I think we can all have 1,000 friends on Instagram, people that we call our followers or friends. But the fact is, they're not really our friends. They're just people who like what we post. So, but then there's the idea of true friendship and true friendship. And then there's the idea of marriage, which is the deepest friendship, human friendship we should have. That a true friendship requires vulnerability. But vulnerability requires the choice to trust. Because if I'm going to open my life up, if I'm going to put my life on the line in certain areas, or I'm going to make myself known, I want to know that I'm not going to be hurt by that decision. So if you don't, and in his case, he's writing about the business community, but it applies, because if I don't trust the people I'm working with, well, then I'm going to be self-serving. We're not going to have honest communication. We're certainly not going to have honest evaluation. And I personally have been on a few of those teams where the leader controlled and his motivation wasn't exactly pure.
Yeah.
And so rather than trust, there was mistrust and there was suspicion and there was all kinds of insecurity. So when we tried to do honest evaluation or when we tried to work through conflict,
Yeah.
the absence of trust created all these terrible atmospheres.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, because if you don't trust, you're not going to admit mistakes.
sure, because I'm going to get hurt.
Yeah, if you've been in a team that doesn't have trust, you're not going to speak up and say that was my fault because, well, I'm going to get punished or left out or it's going to be over. And that same thing in relationships. Like you have to have this certain amount of vulnerability. I think about that all the time because we're always, talking to young people that are starting relationships or trying to figure out how to start a relationship, what that looks like. And if you're watching, that makes sense. But I always think of it as like just leaning on one another. And you want to be careful that one person isn't like, I'm completely committed while the other person's not committed yet, because then you're going to get hurt. And so there's this dance that we do when two young people like each other, that they're like friends.
But they're testing each other.
Yeah. And then they're like, someone's brave enough to go, I like you. And then you either get that response and the other person leans in a little bit more too and says, well, actually, I like you too. Like, okay, now we're admitting we like each other. And then just more and more you start leaning until you are like, oh, I can trust all of my weight, the weight of my life on you.
I'm going to truly lean in.
And you can trust the weight of your life on me. And you're not going to drop me intentionally. You're not going to hurt me intentionally. But then sometimes that trust gets broken, and how do you rebuild that?
And the question, I think, the $10,000 question perhaps is, well, not just how do you build trust, or maybe where does trust come from? And if we're honest and we step back a little bit, we realize now we're saying right here, trust is important, trust is critical, trust is beautiful, but that's just only a piece of the story because we just can't say, okay, well, I trust you because I can't do that. So the question is, where does trust come from? Well, trust comes from character.
Yeah.
Trust comes from proven character, that your character is such that I can trust you. I'm going to be safe with you. I'm not going to be lied to. I'm not going to be taken advantage of. I'm not going to be mistreated. And so character really is we use another word, integrity, which is lean on. Integrity is an architectural term. Does that bridge have the integrity to hold the weight that's going to put on it when the truck drives over?
Yeah. That idea, like, can I trust my life in your hands? That's the gospel. When Jesus says, okay, how did he earn the right for me to trust him with my whole life? That I'm going to make someone else Lord of my life other than me. Because so far, the only one who's really ever thought of me the most is me. I think of me.
I trust myself.
Yeah, I trust myself, and I won't trust anybody else. But then you meet a girl, and you're like, oh, actually, I trust her. Something. But then what gives us, or Jesus, how did he earn the right for me to put my whole life in his hands?
Yeah, which brings up the $1 million. If how do I build trust is the $10,000 question, and the answer is character. It flows out of godly or solid character. Well, then the bigger question, maybe the biggest question is, well, where does character come from? It's interesting that the four things we're talking about, one is a deep relationship, is related to solid trust, trustworthy people, and people trusting in each other. Well, that comes from people of character. Those three things working backwards. If you just stop there, then any business, the McDonald's Corporation could use that rubric, right? They say, hey, you know what? We just need to be people of character. You need to show up on time. You need to tell the truth. And that way we're going to build an environment of trust. And that way we're going to have great relationships that make this thing run. But the question is, where does the character come from?
Whose character?
Yeah, whose character?
Who gets to say what character is?
And for the believer, the answer has to be the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
It's fear of the Lord or the knowledge of the Lord that produces. In other words, I'm no longer not lying because I don't want to get caught or I don't want to get into trouble or I just want to be seen as a wonderful person. I'm now doing it because of something in my life that's larger than any human opinion. and I want to please the God I say that I believe in, all of a sudden you've got an entirely different landscape.
Yeah, because it has to come back to, there has to be some sort of absolute truth
Right.
for us to trust anything. And then we have to agree on that truth. We have to agree on the same story. And in the God story, the absolute truth is a person.
Yeah.
It's not just a stone tablet.
Yeah.
There's been truth carved on stone tablets, and that's great. But absolute truth is found in God. That's why there's a fear of God.
Right.
I don't have a fear of the law.
Not a bad fear, but
Yeah.
a reverence.
Yeah, reverence. Exactly. That's an understanding that, oh, God knows best, and he's proven himself to be best. And that he did that in lots of ways. First of all, by always being the same. There's just a consistency, right? Isn't that what you look for in someone you could trust? Well,
Right.
they're consistent.
Consistency.
But I would hope they're also consistently good. Because I've met people that are consistently like, yeah, you make the wrong choice every time. I
Yeah.
could always count on you to make the wrong choice. But he makes the right choice every time. But also, even that would be scary. Like, wow, that's someone, he's true. He makes the right choice every time. But if it wasn't for Jesus and the incarnation that ultimately led to the cross, I would still wonder, but is he going to be good to me? Or is that truth going to crush me?
Do it again.
Yeah. Is he going to be good to me? Or is he going to he's going to crush me because he's true and I'm wrong
Yeah.
and he's right?
Yeah.
But-
Isn't it interesting that in the Old Testament, as God in the Old Testament tried to woo his people back from idolatry, from trusting in other gods and from worshiping other gods, giving their lives into other gods, he said to them, I'm the Lord and I change not. So he makes this statement about himself that, hey, who I was 1,000 years ago is
Yeah,
who I am
so I am
today
today.
and who I will be in 1,000 years. And so the God who calls us to trust him he's not we talked on Sunday about the gods of that culture, the gods of that era, the Roman Greco gods,
Yeah.
or the Greco-Roman gods, about how they were capricious, they were impulsive, they wanted your daughters or your children, they wanted your money, they wanted your crops. They were anything but altruistic gods. They were mean and vindictive.
Yeah.
And God's to be feared, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And the God of the Bible says, hey, check out my character. Examine my history,
Yeah.
Am I worthy to be trusted?
Yeah. And we talk about motives because, that's and behind that, when we saw the motives of Jesus, the motives of Jesus we see in the scripture, like we talked about this Sunday, was to glorify God, to do his Father's will. And then when we saw, like, okay, if Jesus' whole life was about doing his Father's will, and when I look at the life of Jesus, it looks like caring for the needy, healing the sick, raising the dead, dying in our place instead of us
Right,
taking that
yeah.
place. Okay, well, the motive of the Father then is actually to love us. There's a love motive behind that. And ultimately, like, that's why a good mom is such an amazing thing. It's like, oh, I know she loves me.
Yeah.
Like, I know she can say, moms, even when you disagree with them, if you know they love you, they can say whatever they want because
Right.
they raised you, they gave their life for you, they love you. And yeah, we saw in him, it's a good father. It's a
Yeah.
father who loves us.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier, and I bet you there's people listening here who say, okay, well, that sounds good, but I'm in a situation where trust has been broken. So how do I, and you and I, we encounter this all the time. Something comes up that was hidden or
Yeah.
kept secret, and it's discovered, it's revealed. So there's this explosion of betrayal or disappointment, or you let me down, you're not who I thought you were. So oftentimes we work with helping people find the way back.
Yeah.
And I think of this passage in Corinthians where Paul was helping the Corinthian church to go forward in their relationships with each other and with God. And he said, listen, worldly sorrow produces death, but godly sorrow produces life. And what he was talking about is worldly sorrow is a sorrow, but it's basically a sorrow of the mess.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm in this mess.
Yeah.
I'm grieving that,
I'm
now
sorry I was caught, or I'm sorry I
Yeah.
did this to myself.
we're
but
on the
it's
brink
still
of
about-
divorce.
Yeah.
I've been embarrassed. I've been shamed. I'm sorry. But that's what Paul calls worldly sorrow. Now, sometimes that's a wake-up call for us.
Yeah.
But Paul says godly sorrow leads us to repentance. So the way back from broken trust is what we talked about earlier. It's it's realizing I've broken this and I need to help fix it. I need to be part of the answer to fix it. It's not just going to drop out of the sky. Two is I have to realize there's a part of my character that's either unformed or twisted.
Yeah.
But three, I need to bring God back into this picture. I can go to church, but that doesn't necessarily make any difference. I need to really understand the fear of the Lord and what that means in regards to my sin, my temptation, my addiction, whatever the case may be.
It's, what's funny when I think about that in regards to trust is I think all of us have to come to a place where we realize I can't trust myself.
Oh, yeah.
Like at some point I have to go, I will do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like I need an outside source. I need something better than me, someone better than me.
And bigger.
And bigger than me. Yeah. Because when I take control, it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And that's a tough place to get to, but I think that's where a lot of us, at least people who deal with addiction or have had to deal with addiction in the past, they have to come to a point where they realize I need people around me and I need a power bigger than myself, God.
Yeah.
And
isn't that the AA, you quoted something out of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
One of the first things they say is, I'm powerless to fix myself. I'm powerless to conquer this addiction. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's actually a gospel thing that's been remade to make it more palatable. But
we've seen addiction counselors turn people away before because they're like, you're still trusting yourself. So there's no reason for me to work with you yet until you stop relying on your excuses and
are
your
you
whatever.
done?
Yeah. Are you done yet? Until you're done, I'm just going to keep waiting for you to hit bottom and then we'll talk again. And when you see it, you're like, oh man, that's rough. But you realize there's a wisdom in it too. Like, no, you're still serving this other God of you.
Yeah.
So
and isn't it funny how that's been couched into kind of a normal, hey, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Come on, jump back in, tough up. But really it's a losing strategy.
Yeah.
Now, again, we should be hardworking and we should be ambitious in a good way. But if I'm just doing it in my own strength, I just don't know how you're ever going to you're ever going to come.
I've thought before about in the garden, right after sin, the first instinct of the human heart when sin entered was to hide.
Yeah.
Let's hide. And that's the last instinct that has to go before you really come into the gospel. Is you've got to stop hiding. You've got to be and to get someone to stop hiding. Like it's one thing to find someone. Like if you play hide and seek with a little kid, they're not that hard to find. We're smarter than them.
Right.
We know all the hiding spots. Sometimes they're not even good at it. They're just literally hiding behind their hands.
Right.
Or their feet are sticking out from the curtain or whatever. And you're like, oh, where's Johnny?
He can't see me, so I must be hidden.
Yeah.
Or I can't see him, so he must be hidden.
But when someone's hiding because it's not a game, but because they don't want to be found, finding them and exposing them doesn't really help until they want to come out and be seen and be like, hey, I'm tired of hiding. I need you to know this about me. And what makes us brave enough to do that is a God who dies for us. Like, oh, you don't want to kill me. You want to die for me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come out of the
here to help.
shadows. I'll come out of the shadows then and stop hiding. But it is a scary thing to be known.
Well, isn't hiding again sort of a self-preservation, right? If I can hide myself, I'm still in control.
Yeah.
But you think about the absurdity of thinking we can hide from a living God. That's again back to the fear of the Lord, back to the knowledge of God. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the good and the evil.
Yeah.
So where am I going to hide from that God? But I forget that stuff. In a moment of crisis or in a moment of exposure, I forget that stuff and I go to my instincts, like you said, and I go, well, I'm going to hide myself or I'm going to fix myself. And the gospel says, hey, I love you more. You're more, this is a quote by Timothy Keller we've heard many times. You're more, I'm going to paraphrase it, you're more screwed up than you care to admit, but you're more loved than you've ever believed, than you can believe. And I just think that's the beauty of the truth of the gospel. I am more flawed than I want to admit.
Yep.
But the gospel says I'm more loved than I can imagine, that I can wrap my mind around.
All right, two quotes here that I fumbled earlier. The one actually comes from Julian Barnes from a memoir, Nothing to Be Frightened Of. And he said, I don't believe in God, but I miss him. Ethan helped me with that one. Thanks, Ethan. And then the other one was James K.A. Smith, I believe his name is. And he's the one that said that we, the modern world, is haunted by the supernatural. James K. Smith is really worth checking out. If you haven't done him before, read some of his books. They're worth reading. They're a little dense. They're a little challenging to get through, but it's good stuff in there.
There's an this is a little tangent, but there's an older movie. Ralph Fiennes was in it, well-known actor, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. But the movie takes place in three eras. It takes place in World War I, World War II, and then the communist world of Europe. It's a European context, and it follows the life of a family with kids, with parents, kids, and grandkids. And so Ralph Fiennes is a little boy as the movie starts, but he ages throughout as they jump from time frame to time frame. And they go through as a family. I believe the family was Hungarian or Eastern European, and they go through awful things: the suffering of World War I, the suffering of World War II, and then the suffering of communism. But I'll never forget how impactful it was, because as they move through those time frames, they walk farther and farther away from God. They become more atheistic. And of course, communism is the ultimate atheistic religion of the state that's imposed on them. And they're sitting in a bombed out bunker or a house or something, and they're huddled together. I think grandpa and the kid and the dad and the kids, and they're just trying to stay alive. And the little boy says something to the effect of, "Grandpa, here's the line, if we don't believe in God anymore, why do we miss him so much?" That's the line.
Yeah.
I believe that was taken from that quote. If we don't believe in God anymore, why do we miss him so much? And I think that's the modern dilemma. We don't believe in him, but man, we sure miss him. This is like people today who, they're wanting, even who was the God delusion? Dawkins.
Yeah, Richard
he said,
Dawkins,
we need a Christian, we need to preserve a Christian society.
Yeah.
Well, you want the Christian society without the Christ of the society? It's like, you want the benefits, but you don't want to deal with the Lord.
Let's go hide in this cathedral that doesn't have church anymore.
Yeah.
Let's hide from the bombs in there. Like, hey,
Yeah,
you're
protect us.
you're the one who brought this world about. Like you were an architect of this brave new world that we live in, and now you want to rush back into not the actual God, but the structure of truth that He provides.
Yeah, and religion becomes a rabbit's foot for people. Just this good luck charm, keep me safe.
Yeah. Wow.
But man, what is Christmas about? Christmas is about, hey, that God shows up as a human. And He didn't show up as this powerful warlord. He didn't show up as a psychologist. He didn't show up as just a great teacher. He showed up as a Messiah that said, "Hey, come unto me, and out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water."
I think if nothing else, people will come away thinking, "Man, Bruce has a wide range of movies that he likes, from Elf to depressing World War movies."
Yeah. I don't watch as many as I used to, and I don't recommend movies because it always gets me in trouble.
Yeah, it's
Elf's
true.
relatively safe, but
Relatively,
still.
yeah. There's some great.
There's something
lines.
that's going to offend somebody. So.
Some great line. Well, yeah, I think the most offensive one that I absolutely love though is when he meets the little person and he says, "You're an angry elf."
Angry elf.
And then he runs across the table and tries to strangle him.
Oh my gosh!
I could just watch that one scene and be happy.
It's funny how things grow in, grow out.
Yeah. Well, folks, we love you. Truth is found in Christ, and He is the one worth trusting. His motives are to glorify His Father, and His Father's heart is to love His children, which is amazing that we get a God like that. We do.
You're not alone. You're not too far gone. You're not abandoned. You're loved.
Yeah. If you're still in that instinct to hide, if that is still your instinct, I encourage you, there's not a better season than Christmas than to come out into the light. There are things hidden in your life that are ruining your life and ruling your life. Then come talk to us.
Come on.
Yeah, you're not alone. You wouldn't be the only one. So come with us. All right, love you guys. We will see you on Sunday. We will see you Christmas Eve at South, 2, 4, and 6 at Kaiser.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Yeah, we'd love to have you. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.